Korean Mafia boss agreed to one last blind date. The black girl who showed up changed his life. Part 5. 3 months after June and Min Seo's wedding, Mrs. Choi was back to her normal routine. Pinterest boards, unsolicited parenting advice, and showing up unannounced with enough food to feed a small army. She seemed fine, happy even. But Nia noticed the moments when Mrs. Choi thought no one was watching. The way she'd stare at wedding photos with something that looked like loneliness. The way she'd quickly change the channel when romantic movies came on. The way she'd grown quiet when Jiwoo asked why Halmini didn't have a special friend like Uncle June had Annie Min Seo. She's lonely, Nia told Min-jae one evening after Mrs. Choi had left. Really lonely. And after the Park De-young disaster, she's terrified to trust anyone. Can you blame her? Min-jae was doing the thing where he pretended to read reports but was actually eavesdropping on the twins' conversation in their playpen. Jiwoo was apparently negotiating custody of a toy dinosaur with the intensity of a corporate lawyer. No, but she deserves happiness. She deserves someone genuine who actually cares about her, not her connection to you or the organization. Nia scrolled through her phone thoughtfully. Doctor, you mentioned something in our last session. There's a support group for widows and widowers. Very vetted, very legitimate. Maybe you want to send my mother to a grief support group to find a date. I want to send your mother to a place where she can heal and maybe, possibly, meet someone who understands loss without ulterior motives. Nia showed him the information. It's run by Seoul Presbyterian Church. Background checks required. No one with criminal connections allowed. Which, ironically, means we'd fail, but your mother technically has a clean record. Min-jae considered this. She'll say no. Probably. But we have to try. They were right. Mrs. Choi said no. Emphatically. In 3 languages. I don't need a support group, she announced when they brought it up over dinner. I have family. I have therapy. I have 17 Pinterest boards for Jiwoo and James's 3rd birthday party. I'm fine. Mrs. Choi. Nia started gently. No, absolutely not. The last time I tried to meet someone, he was a Yakuza operative using me for revenge. I'm done. Men are terrible. I'm becoming one of those women with cats. You're allergic to cats, Min-jae pointed out. Then I'll become one of those women with plants. Many plants. A forest of plants. A plant empire. You killed the succulent I gave you last month. That succulent was defective. Jiwoo, sensing emotional tension, threw her sippy cup at the wall. James, ever the supportive brother, contributed by screaming "Inno, Inno, Inno" for solidarity despite having no idea what was happening. Your children are staging a protest, Mrs. Choi observed. Our children are expressing themselves, Nia corrected, using her vice principal voice to restore order. Jiwoo, we don't throw cups. James, we use indoor voices. Mrs. Choi, she turned with the same authoritative energy. You're going to that support group. Once. Just once. If you hate it, we'll never mention it again. And if I refuse, then I'll tell June that you said his wedding cake was too dry and you only ate it to be polite. Mrs. Choi gasped. You wouldn't dare. June spent 3 months choosing that cake. Try me. Min-jae watched this standoff with fascination. His mother, who'd faced down criminals, prosecutors, and her own near-death experience, was being outmaneuvered by his wife using wedding cake as leverage. Fine, Mrs. Choi finally said. One meeting. But when I hate it and everyone is boring and sad, you will admit defeat. Deal, Nia said, knowing she'd already won. The following Thursday, Mrs. Choi dressed like she was going to court. Severe black suit, perfect hair, the expression of someone preparing for battle rather than healing. Nia drove her to Seoul Presbyterian Church, a beautiful traditional building in a quiet neighborhood. This is a mistake, Mrs. Choi muttered, not moving from the car. Probably, but you're going in anyway because you're brave and you promised. I promised under duress. Wedding cake blackmail doesn't count. It absolutely counts. Now go. I'll be back in 90 minutes. Mrs. Choi trudged toward the church like she was walking to her execution. Nia watched until she disappeared inside, then immediately called Min-jae. She went in, Nia reported. Under protest? Intense protest. But she went in. Now we wait. 90 minutes later, Nia returned to find Mrs. Choi standing outside the church, talking to a man. Not just any man, A distinguished-looking gentleman in his mid-60s, silver hair, kind eyes, and the posture of someone who'd spent time in military service. They were laughing about something, and Mrs. Choi's expression was soft, open, nothing like the armored version she'd worn going in. Nia stayed in the car, not wanting to interrupt. Finally, Mrs. Choi said goodbye, a respectful bow, a genuine smile, and walked to the car. She got in silently, buckled her seatbelt, and stared straight ahead. So, Nia prompted, "How was it?" "Terrible. Everyone was sad. We sat in a circle and talked about feelings. It was exactly as awful as I predicted." "Uh-huh. And the man you were talking to?" "What man?" "The distinguished gentleman who made you laugh." "That man." Mrs. Choi's neck turned pink, actually pink, which Nia had never witnessed. "That was Colonel Kong Woo-jin, retired military. His wife died 3 years ago from cancer. He has 2 adult daughters for grandchildren, and he volunteers at the church every week. And nothing. We talked. He was pleasant. That's all. Pleasant enough that you're blushing. I am not blushing. This is just warm car. Too much heating. Very bad circulation." Mrs. Choi fanned herself dramatically. "Drive. Let's go home. The twins probably need supervision." Nia drove, hiding her smile, because Mrs. Choi could deny it all she wanted, but something had shifted. Some small crack in the armor she'd built after Park Dae-young's betrayal. "So," Nia said carefully, "would you maybe consider going back next week? To the group? Just to continue your healing process. I suppose one more session wouldn't hurt. For therapeutic purposes only." "Of course. Therapeutic purposes. The fact that Colonel Kong will be there is completely irrelevant to my decision. Completely irrelevant. He mentioned he makes excellent doenjang jjigae, though. His late wife's recipe. That's interesting from a culinary perspective. Very interesting. Stop smiling like that. Nothing is happening. I didn't say anything. You're thinking it very loudly." Nia laughed, and after a moment, Mrs. Choi laughed too. Tentative, hopeful, scared, but laughing nonetheless. And sometimes, that's where second chances begin. Mrs. Choi attended the grief support group for the next 4 weeks. For therapeutic purposes, she insisted every single time, despite the fact that she'd started wearing lipstick to Thursday meetings and had purchased 3 new outfits that June diplomatically described as age-appropriate but also kind of flirty. "Your mother is dating," Min Seo observed during a security briefing at the penthouse. She was monitoring emails while simultaneously eating the kimbap Mrs. Choi had made that morning, a suspiciously large batch that suggested nervous energy. "My mother is healing," Min Jae corrected, but his jaw was tight. "There's a difference. Boss, she made enough kimbap to feed the entire crew. She's been humming again, and yesterday, I caught her watching YouTube tutorials on elegant date hairstyles for mature women." June looked up from his tablet. "She's definitely dating. She's attending a support group, and then getting coffee after with Colonel Kong every single week," Nia added, walking in with both twins. Ji Woo was covered in what appeared to be paint, while James had somehow gotten yogurt in his hair. "Which is adorable, by the way. Your mother deserves happiness." "My mother deserves thorough background checks," Min Jae countered. "June, tell me you've vetted this Colonel Kong." "Extensively. 40-year military career, retired with full honors. 2 daughters. One's a pediatrician, one's a high school teacher. For grandchildren, all well-adjusted. No criminal connections, no suspicious financial activity, no secret Yakuza associations." June pulled up a file. "He's basically the Korean grandfather from a wholesome TV drama. It's almost suspicious how clean he is." "Nothing is that clean. Dig deeper." "Boss, I've been digging for 4 weeks. The man's biggest scandal is that he once got a parking ticket in 1987 and paid it the same day. He volunteers at church, donates to veteran charities, and teaches Taekwondo to underprivileged kids on weekends. He's aggressively decent." Min Jae looked like he'd bitten into something sour. "I don't trust it." "You don't trust happiness," Nia corrected, depositing James into his father's arms. "Your son needs a diaper change, and your mother deserves a relationship with someone who isn't a criminal or a secret operative. Colonel Kong is exactly what she needs: boring, stable, and genuinely kind. Boring is suspicious. Boring is normal. Not everyone operates in the criminal underworld." Min Jae, "Name one person we know who doesn't." Nia opened her mouth, then closed it. "Okay, you have a point. But that's exactly why your mother needs this. She needs normal. Jiwoo chose that moment to announce how Miani has boyfriend, with a volume of someone broadcasting classified information to enemy forces. The room went silent. What did you hear that? Min Jae asked carefully. How Miani told me. Said Colonel Kong is special friend. I asked if they kiss like mommy and daddy. She turned red and gave me cookies. Bribery, Min Jae muttered. She's using cookie-based bribery to silence our children about her dating life. That's honestly impressive, Min Seo said. I respect the strategy. The confrontation happened that evening when Mrs. Choi arrived for dinner, glowing, humming, and carrying a container of Dunjing Jjigae that she definitely hadn't made herself. Mother, Min Jae said before she'd even taken off her coat, we need to talk about Colonel Kong. Mrs. Choi's expression shifted from happy to defensive in exactly zero point 0.3 seconds. What about him? Jiwoo says you have a boyfriend. Jiwoo is 3 years old. She thinks the mailman is her boyfriend because he gives her stickers. Mother, fine. Yes. Woo Jin and I have been seeing each other. Coffee after group sessions. Lunch twice. A walk through Bukshan Hanok village last Sunday. We are two adults enjoying each other's company. This is allowed. After what happened with Park Dae-young, Woo Jin is nothing like that monster. Mrs. Choi's voice cracked slightly. He's kind, honest. He talks about his late wife with such love. He's not trying to forget her or replace her. He understands grief. He understands that loving someone new doesn't erase the past. The kitchen went quiet. Even the twins seemed to sense the emotional weight. I'm scared, Mrs. Choi admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm terrified, actually. What if I'm wrong again? What if he's not who he seems? What if I'm too broken to do this right? She looked at Min Jae with tears in her eyes. But I'm also lonely. And Woo Jin makes me laugh. Really laugh. And maybe I deserve that. Maybe I deserve a chance at happiness, even if it's terrifying. Min Jae stood there, this powerful crime lord who could command respect with a glance, looking completely helpless in the face of his mother's vulnerability. Nia nudged him. Hard. You deserve happiness, mother, Min Jae said finally, the words coming out stiff but genuine. You deserve everything good. I need to meet him. Officially. Not as a background check, but as your son. I need to look him in the eye and know he understands what you mean to this family. Mrs. Choi wiped her tears. You'll be nice. I'll be civil. You'll be nice. No guns, no threats, no checking his background while he's sitting there. I make no promises about the background checking. That's already done anyway. Min Jae. I'm kidding. Mostly. He crossed to his mother, pulling her into a hug. Invite him to dinner. This weekend. I'll cook. You'll order from that expensive restaurant and pretend you cooked. That's still cooking. It involves decision-making and payment. Very complex process. Mrs. Choi laughed through her tears, holding her son. You're impossible. Learn from the best. That Saturday, Colonel Kong Woo Jin arrived at the penthouse precisely on time, military punctuality that Min Jae grudgingly respected. He was tall, silver-haired, and had the bearing of someone who'd spent decades commanding respect through competence rather than fear. Colonel Kong, Min Jae said, shaking his hand. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. Your mother speaks very highly of you and your family. His grip was firm, but not aggressive. His eyes were direct, but not challenging. Everything about him suggested trained military professional who has nothing to prove. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. Colonel Kong engaged genuinely with everyone, asked Jiwoo about her drawings, discussed security protocols with June, who looked relieved to talk to someone with actual military experience, and told stories about his late wife that made Mrs. Choi smile softly. My wife, Young, she would have liked you, he told Mrs. Choi during dessert. She always said I needed someone who could challenge me, keep me sharp. You do that. I'm told I'm aggressively opinionated, Mrs. Choi replied. I believe the term I used was passionately engaged with life. Colonel Kong corrected with a gentle smile. There's a difference. Min Jae watched this interaction, his mother blushing, laughing, being vulnerable with someone who seemed genuinely worthy of that vulnerability. He caught Nia's eye across the table. She mouthed, he's perfect. Min Jae nodded slightly. Because as much as he hated to admit it, June was right. Colonel Kong was aggressively decent. And maybe that's exactly what his mother needed. After dinner, as Colonel Kong was preparing to leave, he pulled Min Jae aside. I know who you are, he said quietly. What you do. Your mother told me everything. Not the details, but enough. I want you to know, I'm not interested in your organization, your connections, or anything beyond your mother's happiness. I've spent 40 years serving my country. I'm retired. I just want peace, companionship, and someone to share meals with who understands that life is complicated. Min Jae studied him. This man who looked him directly in the eye without fear or calculation. If you hurt her, you'll make me disappear. I understand, but I have no intention of hurting her. I've already lost one love. I know how precious it is. Colonel Kang's expression was sincere. Your mother is remarkable. I'd be honored to continue getting to know her with your blessing. You have it, Min Jae said. Conditional, probationary, revocable at any time blessing. But blessing nonetheless. Colonel Kong smiled. I'll take it. As he left, Mrs. Choi walked him to the door, and they stood talking quietly. Two people who'd survived loss, finding unexpected connection. He's good for her, Nia said, appearing beside Min Jae. He is, Min Jae admitted. I hate that he is, but he is. Why do you hate it? Because it means accepting that mother has a life beyond us, beyond managing our chaos. It means she's moving forward, and that scares you. Everything scares me when it comes to the people I love. Nia kissed his cheek. Welcome to being human, crime boss. It's terrifying. You get used to it. Will I? Probably not, but at least you'll have company. In watching his mother smile, really smile, the kind that reached her eyes, Min Jae thought maybe that was enough. 6 months into Mrs. Choi's relationship with Colonel Kong, the twins had decided he was Grandpa Kong, and the rest of the family had reluctantly accepted that he was a permanent fixture. Reluctantly, because accepting things wasn't their strong suit, but the man had proven himself in the most important way possible. He'd survived a full month of Mrs. Choi's intensity without running. That's true love, Hannah had observed. Or insanity. Possibly both. Today was significant because Colonel Kong was bringing his daughters to meet the family. A merging of families dinner that Mrs. Choi had been planning with the intensity of a military campaign. Which made sense, considering she was dating a military man. Do you think they'll like us? Mrs. Choi asked for the 15th time, rearranging the dining table flowers. Again, what if they think I'm too controlling? Too opinionated? What if they think I'm not good enough for their father? Mother, Min Jae said, watching her spiral with the same concern he usually reserved for security threats. You're a former prosecutor who raised a successful son, survived being widowed, recovered from a stroke, and outsmarted a Yakuza operative. If anything, they should worry about being good enough for you. That's sweet. Also, completely unhelpful. She moved a flower arrangement 3 centimeters to the left. What if they know what you do? What if they judge me for being connected to all of this? Then they're not worth impressing, Nia said firmly, emerging from the twins' room, looking exhausted. Jiwoo refuses to wear the dress you picked out. She's insisting on her dinosaur shirt because apparently she wants to show Grandpa Kang's family her favorite teeth. I assume she means the T-Rex on her shirt, but with her, you never know. She can't wear a dinosaur shirt to important dinner. Mrs. Choi, she's 3. She could show up naked and it would still be age-appropriate. Nia poured herself wine, her first glass since getting pregnant years ago because she decided that this dinner required alcohol. Besides, if Colonel Kang's daughters can't handle a toddler in a dinosaur shirt, they definitely can't handle the rest of this family. The doorbell rang. Mrs. Choi made a sound like a small, terrified animal. I'll get it, Min Jae said, shooting Nia a look that clearly communicated, watch mother. Don't let her spiral into complete panic. Colonel Kong stood at the door with his 2 daughters. Dr. Kong Min Young, the pediatrician, was in her late 30s with kind eyes and the calm demeanor of someone who dealt with screaming children professionally. Kong So-yeon, the high school teacher, was early 40s with glasses and the slightly exhausted look of someone who just survived a week of teenage drama. Min Jae Sasai, Colonel Kong said warmly, bowing. Thank you for welcoming us. These are my daughters, Min Young and So-yeon. Both women bowed respectfully, and Min Jae noticed they didn't flinch at his tattoos or the obvious security presence. Jun was trying to be subtle in the corner, but subtle wasn't really his thing. Welcome, Min Jae said. Please come in. Mother is excited. Very excited. Possibly too excited. Father has been the same way, Dr. Kong Min Young said with a warm smile. He's been talking about Mrs. Choi constantly. We're so happy to finally meet her. They entered the living room just as Jiwoo came running out in her dinosaur shirt, followed by James, who'd apparently decided to wear a cape, origin unknown, possibly stolen from June's apartment. Grandpa Kong. Jiwoo launched herself at the Colonel, who caught her with the ease of someone who'd raised daughters and had grandchildren. I have teeth. I can see that, Colonel Kong said seriously, examining her T-Rex shirt. Very impressive teeth. Are they sharp? Very sharp. For eating bad guys. Jiwoo, Nia said in her vice principal voice, appearing with wine glass in hand. We talked about this. We don't discuss eating bad guys in front of guests. But Daddy says many things that we don't repeat at dinner parties. Min Jae shot Nia a betrayed look. She just smiled innocently. Mrs. Choi finally emerged from the kitchen, looking simultaneously nervous and determined. She'd changed outfits 3 times, Nia had counted, and settled on elegant but understated, a cream blouse and dark slacks that said, I'm sophisticated but also approachable. You must be Sun, Dr. Kong said, stepping forward with a genuine smile. Father talks about you constantly. It's wonderful to finally meet you. All good things, I hope. Mrs. Choi's voice was slightly higher than normal, a nervousness tell that Min Jae recognized. Very good things. He says you're brilliant, kind, and make the best kimchi jjigae he's ever tasted. Soyeon, the teacher, added, he also says you're formidable, which from a military man is basically a marriage proposal. The tension broke. Mrs. Choi laughed, real, genuine laughter. And suddenly the room felt less like a negotiation and more like a gathering. Dinner was surprisingly smooth. Dr. Kong Min Young and Nia bonded over dealing with difficult parents, medical version versus school version. So-yeon and Min Seo discovered they both loved the same obscure Korean dramas and spent 20 minutes debating character motivations. June and Colonel Kong discussed military strategy, which somehow devolved into June asking advice about wedding anniversary gifts. I got Min Seo a tactical flashlight last year, June admitted. She loved it, but her friend said it was unromantic. I don't understand. It's practical and thoughtful. Son, Colonel Kong said gently, never underestimate the power of flowers and a handwritten note. Practicality is important, but romance requires impracticality. That sounds inefficient. Marriage often is. That's part of the beauty. Min Jae watched his mother laugh at something So-yeon said. Watched her lean slightly toward Colonel Kong with unconscious ease. Watched her be genuinely happy in a way she hadn't been since his father died. She looks good, Mr. Yang observed quietly, appearing beside Min Jae. The old man had been invited because he was family in all the ways that mattered. Lighter, like she's finally letting herself live again. I know, Min Jae said. It's good. Strange, but good. Your father would approve. He always said, son, he deserves someone who could match her spirit. The colonel seems like a good man. He is. That's what makes it hard. I can't find anything wrong with him. June's tried. Even Min Seo's tried. He's genuinely decent. And that bothers you? Everything bothers me. It's my default setting. Mr. Yang chuckled. You're your mother's son. She worried too, you know, when you brought Nia home. Worried she wasn't ready, wasn't good enough, wasn't brave enough for this life. Mother said that. She tells me everything. As since your father died. I'm her sounding board. Mr. Yang smiled. But look how that turned out. Nia's perfect for you. Maybe the colonel is perfect for your mother. Jiwoo chose that moment to stand on her chair and announce. Grandpa Kong, do you have gun? The room went silent. Colonel Kong, to his eternal credit, didn't miss a beat. I did when I was in the military, but I'm retired now. No more guns. That's sad. Daddy has guns. Uncle June has guns. Even Auntie Min Seo has computer guns. Those are called firewalls, sweetie. Min Seo corrected, try not to laugh. Do you fight bad guys? Jiwoo pressed, clearly conducting an interrogation. I used to. Now I teach Taekwondo to children and volunteer at church. That's boring. Jiwoo. Nia looked mortified. But Colonel Kong laughed, deep, genuine laughter. You know what? You're absolutely right. It is boring compared to your family. But sometimes, after exciting adventures, boring is exactly what you need. He looked at Mrs. Choi when he said it, and the meaning was clear. After loss, after grief, after surviving, sometimes you need safe, stable, boring. Jiwoo considered this, then nodded. Okay, you can stay. But if bad guys come, Daddy will protect you. I appreciate that. As dinner continued and the families merged into one chaotic, laughing group, Minjae felt Nia's hand find his under the table. Your mother's happy, she whispered. I know. You're handling it well. I'm having controlled panic attack. There's a difference. That's growth, baby. I'm proud of you. And watching his mother, surrounded by family both old and new, laughing with her boyfriend's daughters, being embraced by people who saw her as Sunhee rather than Minjae's mother or the crime lord's widow, Minjae thought maybe Mr. Yang was right. Maybe the colonel was perfect for her. Maybe happiness didn't always have to come with danger attached. Maybe, sometimes, boring was exactly what love should be. It happened on a completely ordinary Tuesday, which should have been Minjae's first warning that chaos was imminent. He was in his office reviewing legitimate business reports, the boring cover for his actual criminal enterprise, when his mother called. Not texted, called. At 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Mother is everything, W.O. Jean proposed. Mrs. Choi's voice was so loud Minjae had to hold the phone away from his ear. He proposed, with a ring and a speech, and he got down on one knee even though I told him his knees are too old for that kind of thing. Minjae felt the world tilt slightly. He proposed. As in marriage. Yes, as in marriage. What other kind of proposal is there? Business proposal? Construction proposal? Use your brain. M-I-N-J-E-Y-A. I'm processing. Give me a moment to process. There's no time for processing. I said yes. We're getting married. I'm getting married. At 69 years old, I'm becoming a bride again. She was crying now. Happy tears, but tears nonetheless. He said he spent 3 years mourning his wife, and he's ready to love again. He said I make him want to wake up every morning. He said, oh, Minjae, he said so many beautiful things, and I cried like a teenager and ruined my makeup. Minjae sat down heavily in his chair. His mother, getting married, to Colonel Kong, who was decent and kind and absolutely nothing like his father, which was somehow both comforting and terrifying. Congratulations, mother, he said, and was surprised to find he meant it. I'm happy for you. Really, you don't sound happy. You sound constipated. That's my happy voice. I'm out of practice. Well, practice faster because we're having an engagement party next month and you're giving a speech. She paused. Also, I need to tell you something else. There's more. Wu Jin wants to merge families officially. He's insisting his daughters and grandchildren be included in everything. All family dinners, all events, everything. Which means she took a breath. Which means your family is about to get significantly larger and more complicated. Minjae thought about his current family. A wife who was a vice principal with zero fear, 3-year-old twins who operated like tiny terrorists, his crew who were essentially siblings, June and Min Seo who were basically family, and now Colonel Kang's 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. How much larger are we talking? 4 more grandchildren ages 5 to 12. 2 more daughters, well, stepdaughters, but daughters. 1 son-in-law who's an accountant, another who's a high school coach. Plus extended family for holidays. Mrs. Choi sounded almost giddy. We're becoming a compound family, Minjae, like the Chables, but with more interesting employment backgrounds. Mother, we're not a Chable. We're a crime family trying to pretend we're legitimate business people. Details. The point is, Christmas is going to be very crowded. After hanging up, Minjae sat in silence for exactly 45 seconds before Nia burst into his office. Phone in hand. Eyes wide. Your mother is getting married. I'm aware. She called me first. Screamed directly into my ear about proposals and knee joints. This is wonderful. She deserves this. Nia was practically bouncing. We need to throw her engagement party. Something big but tasteful. Not too extravagant, but clearly celebratory. Maybe she already planned it. She has Pinterest boards. I guarantee she has Pinterest boards. Of course she does. Nia sat on the edge of his desk. How are you feeling about all this? Confused, overwhelmed, cautiously supportive. Minjae ran a hand through his hair. My mother is marrying a retired military colonel. His family has no idea what we actually do. This is going to be complicated. Everything about us is complicated. This is just adding more complications to the existing complications. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be realistic. She kissed his forehead. Your mother is happy. That's what matters. The logistics we'll figure out. What they didn't know was that across Seoul, in June in Min Seo's apartment, a similar conversation was happening. We should renew our vows, Min Seo said suddenly, looking up from her laptop where she'd been reading about Mrs. Choi's engagement on the family group chat that had exploded with congratulations and crying emojis. June, who'd been cleaning his gun, a romantic Tuesday evening activity, looked up sharply. What? Renew our vows. It's been almost a year since the wedding. Mrs. Choi is getting married again. It feels like, I don't know, a good time to celebrate love? Plus, we could do it smaller this time. Just us close family. Without 300 guests and your mother's PowerPoint presentation. You want a second wedding? I want a celebration. A reminder of why we did this. She paused, then pulled out her own phone, showing him an ultrasound image and maybe an announcement opportunity. June dropped his gun, literally dropped it, which was a safety violation he'd lecture anyone else about. You're pregnant. 8 weeks. Surprise. Minesio's smile was nervous, hopeful, terrified. I was going to tell you over dinner, but then Mrs. Choi's news happened, and I thought, why not make it a family celebration? Vow renewal / pregnancy announcement / general chaos. June crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling her into a kiss that was desperate and grateful and completely overwhelmed. We're having a baby, he whispered against her hair. We're having a baby, she confirmed. So, about that vow renewal, whatever you want. Anything. Everything. He pulled back, his eyes suspiciously wet. But we're telling boss immediately because if he finds out from someone else, he'll actually kill me. Agreed. Also, we're not telling Mrs. Choi yet because she'll immediately start planning a baby shower, and we need at least 3 months to prepare for that level of intensity. Smart. This is why I married you. You married me because I hacked your security system and left a note saying your passwords were embarrassingly basic. That too. The family meeting happened that evening at Min Jae and Nia's penthouse. Mrs. Choi arrived with Colonel Kong, both glowing like teenagers. June and Min Seo showed up looking nervous but excited. The twins were contained in their playpen, conducting what appeared to be a hostile takeover of their stuffed animal collection. We have announcements, Mrs. Choi declared, which was her favorite way to start any gathering. Multiple announcements. A whole collection of announcements. Mother has announcements. Min Jae translated. This always ends well. First announcement. Woo Jin and I are getting married. Engagement party in 1 month. I've already booked the venue, hired caterer, and designed invitations. It's been 4 hours since the proposal, Nia observed. I'm efficient. This is known. Mrs. Choi beamed. Second announcement. We're merging families, which means everyone needs to meet everyone formally. I'm planning a weekend retreat. A retreat? Min Jae looked alarmed. Mother, we can't just take the entire operation on a retreat. Not the operation. The family. Keep up, Min Jae. She waved dismissively. Now, does anyone else have announcements? Because I'm on a roll, and I'd hate to lose momentum. June and Min Seo exchanged glances. Then June stood, pulling Min Seo up with him. Actually, June said, his voice steady despite the nervousness in his eyes. We have 2 announcements. First, we're renewing our vows. Small ceremony, just family. Next month. Wonderful. Mrs. Choi was already pulling out her phone. I can coordinate with engagement party. Double celebration. Very efficient. Second announcement. Min Seo continued, her hand finding her still flat stomach. We're pregnant. Due in 7 months. The room exploded. Mrs. Choi screamed. Actual screaming that made the twins look up from their hostile takeover with concern. Nia started crying immediately, rushing to hug Min Seo. Colonel Kong congratulated June with a firm handshake and what looked like genuine paternal pride. Min Jae just stood there processing. June, his brother in everything but blood, was going to be a father. His mother was getting remarried. His family was expanding exponentially. Everything was changing. Boss. June looked at him nervously. Say something. Min Jae crossed to June. And for a moment, June looked genuinely worried he might get demoted or worse. Instead, Min Jae pulled him into a hug, brief, masculine, but unmistakably emotional. Congratulations, Min Jae said roughly. You're going to be a great father. Better than I am. That's not true. It's completely true. But I'll help. We'll figure out together. Like everything else. Very touching, Mrs. Choi announced, already on her phone. but I'm calling wedding planner and baby store and possibly a venue coordinator because this family is expanding and we need bigger spaces. Colonel Kong gently took her phone. My love, perhaps we should breathe first. Breathing is for people without Pinterest boards. I have 17 new boards to create. Nia caught Min Jae's eye across the chaos. Mrs. Choi planning multiple events simultaneously. June and Min Seo looking overwhelmed but happy. The twins now climbing out of their playpen. Colonel Kong trying to convince Mrs. Choi that venue coordinators could wait until morning. Our life is insane, Min Jae said. Completely, Nia agreed. And it's about to get more insane. Significantly more. I wouldn't change any of it. Liar. Okay, I'd change some of it. Maybe make mothers slightly less intense. Give the twins an off switch. Make June's pregnancy announcement less terrifying, but overall, Min Jae smiled. That real smile that Nia had fought so hard to extract from him. Overall, I wouldn't change a thing. And in that moment, surrounded by chaos and love and the beautiful disaster of family, it was true. Mrs. Choi's small family retreat turned out to be a 3-day event at a luxury resort in Jeju Island that required 2 private planes to transport everyone. Because apparently when Mrs. Choi said small, she meant only 37 people instead of the 300 she invited to weddings. This is not small, Min Jae muttered, watching his crew load luggage while simultaneously conducting security sweeps. This is a tactical operation disguised as a vacation. Your mother rented an entire resort, Nia said, wrestling Jiwoo into a jacket while James attempted to climb into the pilot's cockpit. An entire resort. For 3 days. To facilitate family bonding. I don't think she understands the concept of small. My mother doesn't understand the concept of anything that isn't big, dramatic, and extensively planned. Min Jae grabbed James before he could reach any important aviation controls. We're talking about a woman who has 17 Pinterest boards for events that don't exist yet. The flight to Jeju was chaos incarnate. Colonel Kang's 4 grandchildren, ages 5 to 12, had immediately bonded with Jiwoo and James, creating a 6-child coalition of chaos that made every adult regret their reproductive choices. They're organizing, Min Seo observed from her seat, hand resting protectively on her still flat stomach. Look at them. They're actually strategizing. She was right. The eldest, a 12-year-old girl named Hannah, no relation to crew member Hannah, which was confusing, was apparently the ringleader. She was whispering instructions to the younger kids, who kept nodding seriously like they were planning a military operation. Should we be concerned? June asked, looking between his boss and his wife. Absolutely, Min Jae and Nia said simultaneously. But also curious, Nia added, I want to see what they're planning. As a professional educator, this is fascinating child development. As a father, this is terrifying, Min Jae corrected. Their fears were confirmed when, 30 minutes into the flight, young Hannah stood up and announced, We, the children, demand snacks and screen time, and we're voting to stay up late at the resort. You can't vote on bedtime, Dr. Kong Min-young said patiently in her pediatrician voice. Your children. That's taxation without representation, Hannah countered. We learned about it in school. Very unfair. We could start a revolution. She's terrifying, June whispered. I like her. She reminds me of someone, Mrs. Choi said, looking directly at Nia. Don't look at me. I follow rules. I enforce rules. You threatened a gang lord with social media. That was different. That was self-defense. Jiwoo, inspired by Hannah's bold stance, stood on her seat. I want cookies. James, always the supportive brother, added, Cookies now. And suddenly all 6 children were chanting, Cookies now, with the intensity of a protest movement. Colonel Kong looked at Mrs. Choi. Your grandson has your organizational skills. Your granddaughter has your military strategy, Mrs. Choi countered. This is what happens when our families merge, So-yun, the teacher, observed. The children weaponize their combined genetics. We're doomed. Her husband, the accountant, added helpfully. They gave the children cookies. The revolution was temporarily appeased. The resort was stunning. Beachfront property, private villas, and enough activities to keep 6 children entertained for approximately 20 minutes before they got bored and created their own entertainment, property damage. Mrs. Choi had planned everything with military precision. Scheduled bonding activities, group meals, spontaneous family photos. Nothing was spontaneous. Everything was scheduled, and something called generational sharing circles that made everyone uncomfortable just hearing about it. What is a generational sharing circle? June asked nervously during the welcome orientation that Mrs. Choi insisted on conducting like it was a corporate retreat. It's when we sit in a circle and share our feelings about family across generations, Mrs. Choi explained, as if this were completely normal and not emotionally traumatic. I'm out, Min Jae said immediately. You're not out. You're the patriarch. You have to participate. I'm a crime lord, not a patriarch. You're both. Multitask. The first bonding activity was a beach scavenger hunt that somehow devolved into the children versus adults in what can only be described as asymmetric warfare. The children, led by the terrifying 12-year-old Hannah, used guerrilla tactics. The adults, led by Colonel Kang's military experience and June's security training, still lost. How do we lose to children? June asked, covered in sand after Ji-woo had orchestrated a sneak attack involving a bucket. They're small, fast, and have no regard for rules of engagement, Colonel Kang said, looking genuinely impressed. Classic insurgent tactics. Very effective. Are we discussing military strategy about children? Min Seo asked. Welcome to our family, Nia said. Nothing is normal. Everything is analysis. That evening, the dreaded generational sharing circle convened on the beach. All 37 people sat in a circle that was less circle and more chaotic blob of humans trying to sit on sand. We'll start with gratitude, Mrs. Choi announced, holding what appeared to be a talking stick she'd decorated with ribbons. What are we grateful for in our merged family? Awkward silence. Then 5-year-old Min-ho, Colonel Kang's youngest grandchild, raised his hand. I'm grateful that Grandpa found someone who makes him smile again. He was sad before. Now he's happy. The circle went completely silent. Several adults were suddenly very interested in the sand. Mrs. Choi's eyes filled with tears. That's beautiful, Min-ho-ya. Also, I'm grateful for the cookies on the plane, Min-ho added. Those were good cookies. The tension broke. Everyone laughed. The talking stick made its way around the circle. Dr. Kang Min-young talked about being grateful for extended family for her children. So-yeon mentioned appreciation for Mrs. Choi's strength in welcoming them. Mr. Yang, who'd been invited as honorary family, spoke about watching Min Jae's family grow from tragedy into something beautiful. When it reached Min Jae, he held the ridiculous ribbon-covered stick and felt everyone's eyes on him. I'm grateful that my mother found happiness again, he said quietly. After my father died, I thought she'd never be herself again. But she is. Because of Colonel Kang. Because of this family. He looked at his mother. You deserve everything good, Mother. Thank you for teaching me that it's okay to want more than just survival. Mrs. Choi was openly crying now. Colonel Kang held her hand. Also, Min Jae added, I'm grateful for cookies. Minho was right. They were good cookies. More laughter. More tears. More moments of family being messy and real and complicated. When the stick reached Ji-woo, she stood up dramatically. I'm grateful for everything, she announced. Halmiani, Grandpa Kang, Mommy, Daddy, Uncle June, Auntie Min Seo, the baby in her tummy, all the new cousins, the cookies, the beach, the whole world. She's going to be a politician, June observed, or a cult leader, Min Seo countered. Both require similar skill sets. James, not wanting to be outdone, stood up and simply screamed love at the top of his lungs. Translation, Colonel Kang asked. He's grateful for love, Nia translated. He's learning abstract concepts. It's very advanced for 3. Or he just likes yelling, Min Jae offered. Both can be true. As the sun set over Jeju Island, this merged family, crime lords and military colonels, doctors and teachers, hackers and bodyguards, and 6 children who'd formed an unstoppable alliance, sat together on the beach. Not perfect, not simple, but real. Next year, Mrs. Choi announced, already pulling out her phone, we do this again. But bigger. Mother, this was already bigger. I'm already making Pinterest boards. Colonel Kang gently took her phone. My love, perhaps we enjoy this moment first. Enjoying moments is inefficient. Planning future moments is productive. This is my life now, Colonel Kang said to Min Jae. And I wouldn't change it. Stockholm Syndrome, Min Jae suggested. Love, Colonel Kong corrected. Though sometimes there's not much difference. And as Mrs. Choi began describing her vision for next year's retreat, which apparently involved team-building exercises and matching family t-shirts, Min Jae looked at Nia, at his twins, at this impossible family they'd built from chaos and choice. Worth it? Nia asked softly. Every ridiculous moment, he confirmed. Even the generational sharing circle, even that. But don't tell Mother. She'll make them weekly. Your secret's safe with me, crime boss. That's what you said about my therapy sessions, and now Mother knows I cry about feelings. That was for your own good. Debatable. But he was smiling, really smiling, because all of this chaos, was exactly where he belonged. 2 years later, Min Jae stood in the chaos of what used to be his peaceful penthouse and wondered how his life had become a reality show he never auditioned for. Mrs. Choi and Colonel Kong had married in a ceremony that somehow involved both a traditional Korean wedding and a military honor guard. Mrs. Choi's Pinterest boards had achieved sentience at that point. They now live in a house that connected to the penthouse via a private walkway that Mrs. Choi used to arrive unannounced approximately 17 times per week. June and Minesio's daughter, Icha, was 18 months old and had apparently inherited her mother's hacking tendencies. She'd somehow figured out how to unlock every childproof gate in the building. June looked perpetually exhausted and blissfully happy in equal measure. And the twins, now 5 years old, had evolved from chaos agents into full-blown masterminds. Daddy, Jiwoo announced, walking into his office wearing what appeared to be a business suit she constructed from pillowcases and duct tape. We need to discuss the family business. Min Jae looked up from his laptop where he'd been reviewing actual legitimate business reports. His criminal empire had gradually shifted toward mostly legal operations because, as Nia had pointed out, our children need college funds, and those require documented income. What family business? The family business. Jiwoo sat down across from him with the gravity of someone conducting a hostile takeover. James and I have been observing. We have notes. James appeared, holding an actual notebook covered in crayon drawings and what might have been a business plan or might have been abstract art. It was hard to tell. You're 5 years old, Min Jae said. You don't have notes on the family business. We're almost 6. That's basically adult. Jiwoo opened James's notebook. First, Halmini needs better security. Grandpa Kong is nice, but he's old. What if bad guys come? Grandpa Kong is a retired military colonel with advanced combat training. He's 71, Daddy. That's ancient. Like dinosaur ancient. Don't let him hear you say that. Second, Jiwoo continued, undeterred. Uncle June needs more sleep. He keeps falling asleep during our tea parties. Very rude. Uncle June has an 18-month-old who doesn't believe in sleep schedules. That's bad management. Ai-cha needs discipline. Min Jae tried very hard not to laugh. Anything else? Yes. You and Mommy need another baby. He choked on his coffee. Excuse me. A baby. We voted. James and I want a little sister. We already have names picked out. You can't vote on siblings. That's what Mommy said when we tried to vote on bedtime. But we're persistent. We get that from you. Halmini says so. Nia appeared in the doorway, 8 months pregnant with her third child, a surprise that had made Min Jae pass out briefly when she'd announced it, looking amused. Are they negotiating for a sibling? They're negotiating for a little sister, specifically. Apparently, they've already named her. Song-yi, Jiwoo announced proudly. It means brave and beautiful. We chose carefully. We're having a boy, Nia said gently. Remember? We told you. You saw the ultrasound. Jiwoo frowned. That's disappointing, but acceptable. We'll train him. You're not training your brother like a recruit. We'll train him with love, Jiwoo clarified. Positive reinforcement. Mommy taught us that. Min Jae looked at Nia helplessly. She just shrugged, her hand resting on her very pregnant belly. Your daughter is terrifying, he said. Our daughter inherited your strategic thinking and my complete inability to accept defeat. We created a monster. Monsters, James corrected softly, speaking for the first time. Plural. There's 2 of us. He's right, Jiwoo said. We're a team. That evening, the entire expanded family gathered for dinner, a weekly tradition that Mrs. Choi had implemented with the force of law. The table now required extensions to fit everyone. Min Jae's immediate family, Mrs. Choi and Colonel Kong, June and Min Seo with baby Ha, Colonel Kang's daughters and their families, Mr. Yang, Hannah from the crew, and approximately 12 children of various ages who'd formed an alliance that made all the adults nervous. I have an announcement, Mrs. Choi declared, standing with her wine glass, doctor approved, one glass limit. Wu Jin and I are going on cruise. 3 weeks. Mediterranean. Very romantic. 3 weeks. Min Jae looked panicked. Who's going to? You're going to manage without me. You're 40 years old, Min Jae. Time to be independent. I run a criminal empire. Former criminal empire. Now, mostly legitimate business operations. Mrs. Choi corrected. You've been very good about going legal. I'm proud. Your father would be proud. Something warm and complicated bloomed in Min Jae's chest. His father, who'd built everything on fear and violence, probably wouldn't recognize what the Biko organization had become. Legitimate businesses, community investments, charitable foundations. Still connected to the old world, but building something new. Also, Colonel Kong added, smiling at his wife with obvious adoration, we're considering moving to a beach house part-time. Son, he deserves relaxation. Beach house. Jiwoo's head snapped up. With a beach? Can we visit? Can we swim? Can we? Yes to all, Mrs. Choi said. But you have to promise to listen to your parents and stop trying to optimize family operations. No promises, Jiwoo said seriously. She's definitely your granddaughter, Colonel Kong observed. Later, after dinner dissolved into chaos, Ha had discovered markers. The results were catastrophic. Min Jae found himself on the balcony with Nia, watching Seoul glitter below them. 3 years ago, Nia said softly, I got on a plane for a blind date because your mother offered me free Korean barbecue and I was bored. Best decision you ever made? Min Jae asked, pulling her close carefully because of her pregnant belly. Top 5, definitely. Maybe top 3. She smiled at his offended expression. I'm kidding. Best decision. Even though you were brooding and dramatic and your apartment was aggressively minimalist. It has throw pillows now. 17 throw pillows. I've created a monster. You created a home. Min Jae corrected, his hand joining hers on her belly where their son was presumably planning his own future chaos. You took a crime lord with trust issues and terrible interior design taste and turned him into this. A father? A husband? A mostly legitimate businessman? A person who believes in happy endings. Nia kissed him. Soft, sweet, perfect. We're not at the ending yet. We're in the middle. The messy, chaotic, beautiful middle. And how does this middle end? With more chaos, probably. More children forming coalitions. More of your mother's Pinterest boards. More family dinners that require structural engineering to seat everyone. She smiled. But also more love. More laughter. More moments like this. Inside, they could hear Jiwoo organizing the cousins for what sounded like a hostile takeover of dessert privileges. James was providing strategic support. Cha was probably drawing on something expensive. Our life is insane, Min Jae observed. Completely, Nia agreed. I love it. Me too. And there, overlooking Seoul, surrounded by the beautiful chaos of family, Min Jae realized his father had been wrong about one thing. You didn't have to choose between the empire and everything else. You just had to be brave enough to want both. And lucky enough to find someone who'd help you build it. Come on, Nia said, pulling him back inside. Your daughter is negotiating dessert terms with your mother. This requires parental supervision. They're both more terrifying than any criminal I've ever faced. Yes, but there are terrifying people. Best family ever. Best family ever. And as they stepped back into the chaos, children scheming, adults laughing, Mrs. Choi already making Pinterest boards for the beach house, Colonel Kong trying to restore order with military precision and failing beautifully. Min Jae thought about that first blind date. The woman in the yellow dress who'd insulted his tie and changed everything. The best mistake his mother ever made. The best decision he never knew he needed. Sometimes love shows up in Korean restaurants wearing attitude like armor. Sometimes it survives kidnappings and gang wars and Pinterest boards. Sometimes it builds empires out of chaos and family out of choice. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it gives you everything you never knew you always wanted. The indie. So here's the final question. Would you take the blind date that changes everything? Would you risk your comfortable life for chaos, love, and a mother-in-law with unlimited Pinterest boards? Drop "worth the risk" in the comments if you believe the best love stories start with bad decisions. Hit subscribe if you're not like the Kong faction, bitter and alone. And tell me, Team Jiwoo's strategic mind or Team James's quiet support? Because these twins are going to rule the world someday, and we all need to choose sides now. Thank you for following this chaotic journey from blind date to criminal empire to mostly legitimate business with excellent throw pillows. May your own love stories be equally unexpected and significantly less dangerous. Unless you're into that. No judgment. Thank you guys for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, click on the post notifications to get notified whenever I drop a new video.